Okay, so ready to get a little spooked.
Always up for a good scare, especially if it's well crafted.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today. Hush, Mike Flanagan, 2016.
Oh, excellent choice. Hush really gets under your skin.
Yeah, it proves that sometimes silence can be way more terrifying than the whole symphony of screams.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the jump scares, it's about that creeping dread, the slow burn.
Exactly. This deep dive, we're going beyond just saying it's scary. We're going to unpack how Flanagan takes these ideas of isolation, vulnerability, and flicks the script on sensory deprivation.
Love that. Definitely a unique angle for a horror flick.
And the thing is, it all starts with silence. Like literally the power of what you don't hear. You've seen it, right?
Definitely. Multiple times, actually.
So Hush isn't bombarding you with music or like people yelling constantly. It's the quiet that gets to you.
It's so effective because that silence becomes a character in itself almost.
Oh, totally. I'm thinking of that scene that the killer, he's outside Maddie's window, right?
The tension in that scene is palpable, and it's achieved with barely any sound.
Yeah, but we hear things that Maddie can't. Footsteps, his breathing. It's like we're in on a secret she's not.
Exactly. And that makes it so much more unsettling because we know danger's lurking, but she's clueless.
Ugh, yeah. It's like we're holding our breath for her, waiting for something awful to happen.
And it makes us, the audience, complicit almost. We're experiencing that vulnerability right alongside her.
Totally. You're tapping into that primal fear. Alone, in the dark, anything could be out there.
And Flanagan plays with that brilliantly throughout the entire film.
Which brings us to Maddie, our protagonist. Deaf, mute, writer, lives out in the woods. Alone.
Classic horror movie setup, right? Isolated, vulnerable. But that's where the subversion comes in.
Because you'd think that's like instant victim material. Hush says, nope, not this time.
It turns those perceived weaknesses into strengths. She's adapted to a world without sound.
So she's not easily startled, and she's already hyper-aware of her other senses.
Which, of course, becomes absolutely crucial in her fight to survive.
She's already playing life on hard mode, basically.
But think about it. She can feel vibrations through the floor. She senses the killer's presence in ways he doesn't even expect.
Right. He underestimates her because of her deafness, but it's actually her superpower.
Challenges our assumptions about who's truly vulnerable and who has the upper hand.
Right. Now we got to talk about the killer. I mean, this guy's just creepy.
Chilling, even. And what makes him even scarier is the lack of information, right?
Yeah, no name, no backstory, no motive that we can figure out. He's just there, menacing.
And that's intentional, because in real life, the scariest crimes are often the ones that make no sense.
Whoa, you're right. It's that randomness, like anyone could be a target. There's no logic to it.
Exactly. And Flanagan, by not giving us any answers about the killer, turns him into this universal symbol of fear.
Like the boogeyman, just lurking in the shadows, unknown, and therefore way more terrifying.
It taps into those deep-seated anxieties we all have, being hunted by something we can't understand.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Flanagan's direction, it's so minimalist, but so effective.
The whole film, it takes place in one location, Maddie's house and the woods around it. You'd think that would be boring.
Right, but instead, it makes everything feel more claustrophobic, trapped.
Oh, that shot where the camera's slowly pushing in on Maddie as she's hiding.
Ugh, yeah, the walls are closing in. You can feel her desperation growing.
It's like the house itself becomes a character in the story, this oppressive force.
And because there's not much dialogue, the visuals have to do a lot of heavy lifting.
Right. We're forced to rely on our sense of sight, just like Maddie, looking for clues, trying to anticipate what's next.
Like Flanagan saying, no words, fine. I'll tell the story with the camera, and it totally works.
The camera work, lighting, the way he uses shadows.
Yeah.
It's all adding layers of suspense that dialogue couldn't achieve.
So, big picture. After this deep dive into Hush, what's the takeaway for us as viewers?
I think Hush makes us confront some uncomfortable truths, like how quickly the familiar can turn dangerous.
Ooh, good point. It's her home. It should be safe, but...
And it makes us think about vulnerability, right? Maddie's deafness is what ultimately saves her.
Because it forced her to adapt, to rely on her other senses in a way that most people don't.
Exactly. So Hush is saying, strength can be found in unexpected places. Don't underestimate anyone.
And that sometimes the most terrifying things are the ones we can't explain or predict.
The unknown will always hold a certain power over us, that's for sure.
Well, if you haven't seen Hush, I think this deep dive has given you plenty of reasons to check it out.
It's a masterclass in suspense, and if you have seen it, hopefully we've given you some new things to think about.
Definitely. Hush is one of those films that stays with you long after it's over.
And maybe, just maybe, it'll make you listen a little closer to the silence around you. You never know what might be lurking.
Okay, see, now that's how you end a spooky deep dive. Well done. Until next time, everyone, sleep tight.
Sweet dreams.